so much for coming. We have had such awesome turnouts for our programs this summer. That was the time History Comes Alive, where we coordinated our efforts with the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum. So each Saturday, we have been recording historical programs. This particular program was rescheduled because it was originally scheduled on the date of graduation, and that just did not work. So thank you for coming out. So my name is Nell Clay. I'm going to be your host and videographer for the evening. Just to tell you a little bit about the museum, most of you have probably been here before, but some of you may not have. We started off as a foundation in 2009 with a number of citizens that felt that African Americans need to tell their own history in their own words. It was established as a museum in 2012, and our mission is to tell authentic stories of African Americans in Springfield and Central Illinois in their own words. So that has been our mission, and we work diligently to accomplish that mission. And I thank each of you for supporting us not only by coming to our programs, but a number of you, I recognize you are members, but if you are not a member, we hope you become a member before you leave. With your donations, now some of you I recognize have been to several programs, and one other way you can assist us if you would like financially is we are having our annual fundraising gala on October 13th. This fundraiser is basically our finances for the year. This pays for our finances for the year, so we hope you will support that because we want to continue being a light in our community for history that is accurate and authentic. One other thing before I start the program, we are in a project entitled the Underground Railroad Experience. We're in the process of searching every county, all 102 counties in Illinois, to see if there has been an Underground Railroad site, an Underground Railroad experience in the county. So far, we have 2 of these binders full of information. I don't know if any of you know Charlotte Johnson, historian from Alton, Illinois. Well, she has sent me a binder that equals 2 of these Underground Railroad sites and information in Alton County and that area. So if you would like to assist us, if you like to do research, I would love to sign you up to do some research to our county to see if there's an Underground Railroad site within that county, give you some guidance on how that could be done. Okay, so let's get started. I am excited about this program because I was originally hired into the school district as an educator right after this decree was settled. So we're going to be discussing the school desegregation decree that was finalized in 1976. It is the McPherson versus the school district. So this is a panel. We'll be discussing it. I'm going to introduce them in just a second. So a short quote from that decree. And quote, after the desegregation suit was filed, the school district entered into a consent decree in which they admitted that the schools were segregated in violation of the 14th Amendment in the Constitution. Therefore, the school district was required to desegregate the schools to create a unitary school system by agreed prior order of this court, end quote. So this panel will be discussing the details of the lawsuit, the agreed upon provisions of the lawsuit, and basically where we are now. So starting with I'm going to introduce all 3 panelists, and after all 3 have presented, then we'll open it up for questions and answers. So starting with the esteemed panelists, Alan Woodson. Want to raise your hand, Alan, for people that don't know you? Alan actually graduated from White's High School here in Springfield. He earned a Bachelor's of Science in Education from the Illinois State University, a Master of Education from the University of Illinois, and a Doctorate of Education from the University of Illinois. Within School District 186, he now University of Illinois, the Secretary of State in the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce. He has an awesome wife, a great family, and is active in his community and church. Our next panelist, Jamar Scott, Doctor to be. Mr. Scott is the current Chief Equity and School Improvement Officer for Springfield School District, which includes the recruitment of certified personnel from District 186. Prior to his current role, Mr. Scott was the principal at Hazledale Elementary School, as assistant principal at Springfield Southeast High School, a guidance dean at Lanford High School, a high school math teacher in Jennings, Missouri, and St. Louis, Missouri, and a university lecturer for the University of Missouri, St. Louis, and Fontbonne University. He is the recipient of the 2019 Horace Mann Administrator of the Year Award and is completing his doctorate in education leadership at St. Louis University. He holds a master's degree in educational leadership from St. Louis University and a bachelor's degree in mathematics education from Harris-Stowe State College, now Harris-Stowe University. He is a first-generation college graduate and is passionate about the power of education to transform the lives of individuals and families. Mr. Scott is the devoted husband of Josephine Scott. Josephine, raise your hand. Okay. And proud father of their two sons, Julian and Jordan. I didn't tell them it's their And so, Mr. Scott, you're going to raise your hand. Thank you. See, even adults take care of this. Okay. Mr. Albert Betts. Mr. Betts graduated from Shrivers High School in Aberdeen, Mississippi, then from Rust College in 1965, where he obtained his BA in education. He received his postgraduate degree from Tennessee State University, Memphis State University, now the University of Memphis, and from same state, where he obtained an MA in Education Administration. Mr. Betts has spent most of his professional career in the Springfield as a teacher at Jefferson Middle School, head teacher at Lawrence School, and assistant principal at Grand Middle School, assistant principal, then principal at Washington Middle School. I'm pretty straight everybody out of Washington Middle School. Assistant principal at Lanford High School and principal at Springfield Southeast High School until his retirement. After retirement, which he did not retire, Mr. Betts began working as a coordinator for the NAACP Back to School, Stay in School Alternative Program, where he is still very active. I think we have some of the best quality of individuals in this whole town to talk about this issue. And Mr. Betts, will you raise your hand before I go on? I love people that follow orders. Okay, and we're going to begin with Mr. Woodson, and I'm going to pass out some information he has as we do that.
Good afternoon. I brought the most important thing to the presentation this morning, glasses. I should tell you that one time at the Great Gaffney Convention Center, I written down some words on a yellow legal pad and left my glasses in the car. And I had a choice to make because I either had to pick up the legal pad and say as best I could or try to fake it. So I picked it up. So I learned from that, and whatever else you do, rally with it, bring your glasses. So I have those here with me. Thank you so much to the museum for the kind invitation to invite the three of us to speak on this topic. And we're passing out for you right now a timeline. I mentioned that because it gets a little choppy and a little muddy. You go back and try to find out exactly, what happened and when it happened. So this should help as you listen to my presentation, and then of course later on if you have any questions, we can deal with it at that point in time. A federal class action lawsuit, McPherson and others versus the Springfield Public Schools, as heard by Judge J. Walter Ackerman, was brought against the Springfield Public Schools District 186. Oh, okay, that'd be great. Was brought against the Springfield Public Schools District 186 on April the 11th, 1974. That's important that you remember that if you look on your timeline because that's really when it began, not in 1976. It was brought by Reverend Nigel McPherson. Reverend McPherson was a former pastor here in town at the time, Missionary Baptist Church, out on East Laurel Street. And on the lawsuit itself, it references Reverend McPherson and his 2 children, as well as 35 other adult plaintiffs and their children as well. So it was a truly eclectic class action lawsuit. Percy Julian of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund represented the plaintiffs, and the cause of action is presented with stated in part that District 186 was, and I quote, pursuing a policy, practice, custom, and usage of public education for Negro residents of School District 186 that resulted in the denial to the plaintiffs equal educational opportunities that created, maintained, permitted, condoned, and perpetuated a dual and racially segregated system of public schools in violation of the rights of the plaintiffs. Pretty strong accusation. A mere 8 months after that lawsuit was filed, a consent decree was entered into by District 186 on December 27, 1974, whereby the Springfield Public Schools conceded that the plaintiff's lawsuit had indeed merit. Between December of 1974 and December of 1976, a citizens panel named the Intercultural Affairs Committee, IAC, was formed to develop options for the Board of Education to consider. The IAC split into 2 different groups, with one group proposing what they call the PEACE Plan, the acronym meaning Proposal for Excellence, Ambition, and Cooperation in Education. And the other one would have established an 85-15 ratio of majority to minority students. And they would have had elementary schools to remain essentially the same, except for the creation of learning centers. So nothing really terribly evolved. So the board decided to eventually develop its own plan to have 5th and 6th graders from 2 of the 4 quadrants to pursue enrichment activities and to establish an alternative magnet school. Then surprisingly, the Board of Education voted to have the original 1984 lawsuit thrown out, even though it had already entered into a consent decree. Judge Ackerman, however, ruled against the board and in favor of the plaintiff. So there's a little backpedaling there by the Board of Education. On December the 7th, 1976, 32 months after the lawsuit was filed, and keep up with this time that's happening here, Judge Ackerman issued a 9-point plan detailing the implementation for the first phase of the 4th quarter desegregation to take effect, beginning with the parties agreeing to continue a board middle school plan that was already in place and that had been adopted on August 9, 1976 for the 1976-77 school year. The second and final phase of the plan, 40 months after the laws had been filed, was implemented for the elementary and high schools, effective at the start of the 1977-78 school year. Also implemented at the start of the 1977-78 school year was the singleton rule. This was used as a means to assign black staff to every learning center in the district. And the Singleton Rule, which was the result of a 1970 federal appellate court ruling out of Jackson, Mississippi, provides that the ratio of black personnel to white personnel in each school district be substantially the same as each such ratio is to the personnel in the entire system. It's important, folks, to remember that these ratios are not, I repeat, not tied to the population percentage of blacks and whites within the community, or to the percentage of black students and white students within a given school district. Now, during collective bargaining talks with the Springfield Education Association, have anybody from the SEA? In the spring of 1981, 83 months after the lawsuit had been filed, there was an effort initiated by Superintendent Donald Needham and supported by the Board of Education to add language to the collective bargaining agreement that would have shielded black teachers from reduction in force, which we commonly call RIF. And this was action taken that resulted from projected shortages in the education fund in a subsequent school year. Typically, per that agreement, teachers were laid off and rehired per available finances on a last hired, first fired basis. However, those efforts by the board were successfully rebuffed by the SAA and U.S. District Court. I kind of chuckle about that. Is Carolyn Farr here today? Okay, Carolyn right now is the chairman of the museum. She was one of the victims of RIF, and we always laugh about that kind of because she got one of those letters that Alan Woodson had to sign. And people like Zivers and your colleague here, the board, they would make those decisions, but then they would give the letter to the HR guy and make him send it out and tell people, you don't have a job. Not a good way to make friends. So I want to mention it to you, but Carolyn was one of those individuals. But the state of Illinois required that all teachers who were going to be laid off had to be so notified within 60 days prior to the school year. And if they weren't, then they automatically were going to come back and be rehired the following year. Now, I think that was changed a little bit right now. At that time, non-tenured staff were for the first 2 years. The board said, well, let's try to do something else. Let's see if we can rewrite the book and skip over any black staff that might have to be retired or ripped. And of course, that did not go very well with the SEA. And we went into court and we lost. And I always got a little chuckle out of that because the counsel for the teachers had me up my stand there in federal court. If you've never been on federal court, it's very quiet in the courtroom. And you're not talking, the court reporter isn't doing anything. So I'm sitting here trying to think about what to say to some of the questions that you hear all the time, working on that sonography piece. And when I stopped, she stopped. And I looked there and she said, I said, okay, I get this. So I had to come back and come up with an answer because Mr. Friedman, who was representing the teachers, asked me, he said, well, where did you go to recruit staff? And I said, well, we have gone to historical black colleges and universities in the southern part of our country, down in Louisiana and also in Mississippi, and in Texas Southern. And he said to me, so Mr. Woodson, he said, why didn't you go to Des Moines, Iowa? I was kind of shocked by that because very local group isn't here, who is from Iowa. There weren't that many black people in Iowa. And I didn't want to tell them that on the stand because that's a very serious place where you are in court. But I said to myself, my goodness, I said, where in the world did you get that idea from? But it lets you know that there's pressure on everybody at that particular time to see if we could resolve it. So, that's just a real quick summary. There's a timeline that we just passed out. Take that home with you. You can kind of see exactly what was done and when. And we'll be back later on after Jamar and Edward finish their respective presentations. We can kind of talk about some of the things that have happened and the impact that they're making still today. So who's going to be next? Jamar.
Good afternoon, everyone. I came into my role last summer with a challenge, and that challenge, as it relates to this consent decree, was to actually make something happen. And that challenge came from my colleague to my left, Mr. Betts. They've been doing a lot of talking. We haven't seen a lot of action. So we spent the summer kind of like talking through, kind of everything that has happened prior to me taking on this role of recruitment. And we just dreamed the dream, right? We just thought about like, well, what if we did this? Or what if we tried that? And I hope to elaborate on some of the things that developed as a result of our joint communications as well as our communication with our school district leader, superintendent. This is something that we all take very seriously. Likewise, it is a very difficult challenge to overcome in our current context as educators, because we don't have this laundry load of people going to become teachers, period. And then when you're looking for teachers of color, that becomes more difficult. So we had to definitely think outside the box and, try some things that weren't there before. All right, so these are a lot of statistics on the screen. So this is the end of we begin by looking at the 2020 census. So as it relates to the consent decree, our teaching staff has to mirror the percentages of this was about black teachers, but I'm pushing myself to extend this for every group. But at the 2020 census, 19.9% of the population who participated in the census were black. 72.9% were white, 3% were Asian, almost 3% were Hispanic, and 3.5% were two or more races. American Indians were 0.1% of the population that participated in the Springfield census. So, if we are following the consent decree, or if we are in compliance, then our teaching staff was very similar to those numbers. At the end of the school year, we had 43% of our students were black, 37% were white, 13% were two or more races, 3.5 Hispanic, 2.5 Asian, 0.2 American Indian, and 0.1 were Asian or Hawaiian or Pacific Islanders. When we look at our administration, we are in compliance. almost 33% of our school administrators and district administrators are black. And right at 66% of them are white, and 1% two or more races. When we get to the certified staff, that's where we have an issue. 7.3% of our teaching staff at the end of the school year was black. And presently, looking at those who retired as well as those who came on, we're actually really close to the same thing. Right now, we are at 7% of our teaching staff black. We have about 4 people who are in the process of being certified. So those people are permanent subs right now. Once they are certified fully, then we will be pretty much in the same place, 7.4% black. Our teaching staff is primarily white, 90.52% of our teaching staff is white. And that is not an indictment, that's just a statement of reality. That's where we are right now. And in order for us to be compliant, we have to make our staff more diverse, period. Our classified staff, we are in compliance with our classified staff. Actually, we're higher than our compliance numbers. 37% are black, 61% are white for our classified staff. And that's all non-certified staff in the school district. So that is where we ended the school year last year. All right, increase is one thing, but I like to think that we do things because it's what's best for kids, right? And there's a lot of research that states that having diverse teachers is good for all students. Not just the Black students, not just the Hispanic students, not just the multiracial students, but for all students. And what we find is that when students have teachers who they identify with in terms of their race and culture, they are more likely to go to college and to graduate. And there are multiple studies that indicate this, that have been done in our country and in other countries. So we want to take advantage of the research as well as we go through this process. So what have we done to increase teacher diversity in Springfield Public Schools? One of those dreams that we dreamed with Mr. Betts and Sherry Hamilton, who was there with us? Cena Nelson. The question came up is, could we use extra funds to increase diversity in our school district? So we didn't know the answer to that question, so we went to Larry McPherson, who is our federal funding person, and he did some searching, and we found that the answer to that question is yes, we can. So we set aside $2 million to increase diversity within our teacher force. This $2 million covers tuition, fees, books, student teaching support for district employees. So what I mean by that is you don't have to be broke while you student teach. So if you are a district employee, you will maintain your salary and we will get a substitute to fill in your position until you finish student teaching. Because that tends to be one of the largest barriers to get from paraprofessionals to a certified teacher. Because not many people can afford not to work and have an income for 4 months of their life. We have partnerships with UIS, Milliken, and Grand Canyon that are very strong. We have several students at UIS and Grand Canyon right now. Milliken, we don't have any at the present, but we have about 30 people involved in this pipeline right now. So within 2 years, that'll be 30 additional people that are working in our teacher force. Another tool that we have, I talk about all of our partnerships and who we're developing with. One that's important to note, Western Illinois University has a Master's of Arts in Teaching that's an alternative licensure pathway. So what that means is you can have a degree in anything, a bachelor's degree in anything. If you can pass a content area test, they will put you in the program for 2 years. You receive immediate certification and you can begin teaching. $15,000 per candidate. Any bachelor's degree. So that is a tool that we are trying to maximize right now. We have bought the teacher prep books for every certification test that the books exist for. We have several people who have loaned those out already, so that does not become another barrier, because testing is a barrier for some people. So those are some of the things that we've done with that. We are working with Lincoln Land. We just received a career and technical education grant that allows us to create a future teachers club. That club has to mirror the student diversity of our school district. So that, right now, 43% of our students are African American or Black. That club has to mirror that as we look through and push students through. Those students will receive tuition, books, and fees for a year of community college, basically. They'll have 1 full year worth of coursework done when they finish. So that is a positive There's also another alternative licensure program that we are in discussions with. It's out of the University of Western Florida. Florida has a different kind of process when it comes to teacher certification. With them, if you have a degree, you can enter their program. It is not a degree-bearing program. It's a certification program, 1 year. You have to take 3 different tests before you finish.
I'm sorry. Just hang up, thank you.
So with that program, you can do it in as short as 9 months. There are people who have obtained licensure in as little as 9 months. Once they obtain that Florida license, all they have to do is apply for an Illinois license and notice that they have this license from Florida, and they become certified. That can happen in as little as 9 months, and it will cost the district $6,000 per candidate. Okay. So this is just a repeat of a lot of the things that we've said, but we've recruited, I did like seven teacher fairs last year. And of the 7 teacher fairs that I attended, Springfield Public Schools hired maybe 7 candidates. We ended the school year with 50 openings. So those 7 candidates from going to teacher fairs, we used to be able to go to teacher fairs and just clean up, come in and, fill up every vacancy that we might have. That is not really the case anymore. There aren't as many candidates, and there are definitely not as many candidates of color who are, looking to go into teaching. And then we have to compete with Chicago, which is way more attractive to young 20-year-olds than Springfield is. So we are really trying to get to the place where we grow our own teachers. Starting with that Future Teachers Club in the high school, they get a year under their belt there. If they can come out into, one of our pipeline programs with Grand Canyon or with UIS or with Milligan, 3 years later, they're in our buildings teaching. So those are the sort of things that we're working on. There's also another way that people can get certified to teach, content area pathway. So you have a bachelor's degree in a content area, math, science, English, social studies, family and consumer science. Any area where we have teachers, if you pass the content area test and you already have the bachelor's, you receive a temporary or provisional licensure immediately. You can apply as soon as you finish that test. You can apply for a temporary license, and you have 3 years to fill in any gaps academically. So if there are specific courses that the state says that you need, you have 3 years to take those courses. When you finish your courses, you become fully certified. We also have partnerships with Golden Apple. Golden Apple is sort of a teacher residency. They produce some of the highest quality teachers out there. We have 2 Golden Apple accelerators in our school district right now who are working towards certification. Hopefully, when they finish their program, they will stay with us. But this is another tool that we have to help our district first recruit and retain. So one of the challenges that I'll just say, I'm sure Mr. Best will say more about this, is we have an issue getting teachers in the district, but I think it's also as much a challenge keeping them here. And I'm a very honest person as it relates to this. Some of it is we haven't learned how to appreciate the gifts that everybody brings to our district. So what are we doing about that? Our district now is dedicated to professional development for every employee around equity. And that conversation involves really difficult conversations. This week we had a professional development with our principals. And, not that the whole session was about white supremacy, but we got to talk about it. We have to have those conversations that make all of us uncomfortable at some point so that we get to a place where that no longer becomes our obstacle. And we can never, change our academic data if I am standing on one side trying to do it one way and somebody else is on the other side trying to do it a completely different way. We have to unify our efforts and we have to be very focused and we have to understand why we're doing what we're doing. That's the work we're doing right now. Is that easy work? No, it's not. It's not easy at all. Is it quick work? No, it is not quick work. Because I'll be 50 next year. So I have some things that have been a part of my life for 50 years that are not going to change because I sat in one session for half a day with principals in Springfield Public Schools. So that's the reality that we have to face. Are we going to change everybody's belief systems and all of that overnight? We're not. But we want to get to a place where we can change the expectations. So we have shared all this information. We've given everybody a time to debrief and read and learn and grow. But we have to ensure that what we do changes. Because I didn't put our academic data on the screen because, to be honest, it is depressing. And it's not just depressing for Black kids, it's depressing for all kids. But if we add, but it's worse for Black students. When we look at the number of students that are proficient at the end of a school year or in a subject area, Tier 1 instruction, which is classroom instruction, which you're regularly teaching every day, should yield 80% of our students being proficient at grade level, at content level. That's flipped for us. It's about 20%. So did the pandemic have something to do with that? Yes. Were we struggling before the pandemic? Yes. The pandemic just exacerbated the situation. So we are in a place of crisis, and we are doing everything that we can to change that. Looking at curriculum, that's another thing that we're doing to ensure that everybody receives college and career-ready education so that when they leave us, they are prepared. Not that they leave us and then they have to go to some college and take, remedial courses that they pay for and don't receive credit for. We're doing a lot of things. You can skip. All right, so this is our goal. So the 9-point implementation order was December of 1976. Our goal as a district is for us to come into compliance with this order by August of 2026. When we go into the 26-27 school year, we want to have enough certified teachers, enough Black certified teachers, so that this is something that we're finally in compliance with. This is 48 years since the lawsuit was filed. This year is year 48. So honestly, when the first consent decree came through, it would be 2024. But until we had some actionable items, it was 2026. And we need time to say that I'm going to go find, 150 teachers in 2 years, just not realistic. But if we work real hard, and I think this is where we are going to lean on you, our community, to help us. If there are people in your life who may be interested in teaching, get me in a room with them. Get me in a room with them. Because we are doing everything we can to support this effort, and I want to live to see this be a reality. I want Mr. Best to see this be a reality, because he has dedicated a significant percent of his life to make this our reality. And it's important for all of our students, not just the Black students, not just our multiracial students. It's important for our white students. They need to be around educated African American or Black teachers. Everybody needs that. It'll also change the conversations in staff development, in faculty meetings. You know, sometimes there's nobody in the room who has that experience. Even today, even with the Singleton rule that Mr. Woodson discussed, there are still schools that don't have a Black teacher today. So when you go into a faculty meeting and you try to brainstorm ways to support either a Black family or a Black child, not to say that it can't be done without a Black person in the room, it actually can. But the perspectives that are gained by having somebody in the room and on the team who can relate is important. So that's our goal. This is what we're doing right now. We are looking for every way to get people certified as fast as possible with quality. So I talked about these two programs, a 2-year program at Western and this teacher ready program in Florida. That program has been in existence for almost 20 years. It is one of the best alternative licensure programs in the country, which is why we're interested. And those teachers go on, so they have teachers in I think they said all 50 states have teachers who come through this program and they go into the field in their states and are successful. Those are our efforts now. And Mr. Benson talked to us a little bit about what's happening in between.
Thank you, Mr. Scott and Dr. Woodson. I'm going to kind of piggyback on some of the information that they've already shared with you. This is my 23rd year with this. I retired in 1999 from Southeast. The day I walked out of there, I got my big mouth on. I went to the Jim Young show down at the library. Carl Madison was the president of NAACP. I asked him the first person in the education committee was making their report. And I asked him the question, I said, do you know how many schools you have in District 6? He couldn't give me an answer. The other question, can you tell me how many Black teachers you have in District 6? They couldn't give me an answer. The next day, they had me in the newspaper as the chair for the education committee. They didn't ask me if I wanted to be, but I got my big mouth for it because I was kind of upset. They just didn't know. They didn't keep track of it. Since that time, the 23 years that I put into this, I got all of the information. I got every person who's been at this school and at that school. In this faculty. I first started off with Carl. We met with Dr. Hill. We went in, and there's some things I probably shared with when we first asked Dr. Hill what we wanted. We wanted all the schools to have at least, I'm going to read to you what we asked. Each elementary school will have at least 2 or more Black teachers on the staff. The reason why we asked is because, as Mr. Scott has already stated to you, we had some schools with no Blacks in the hall. And as of today, you got about 4 or 5 schools, based on the report that they gave me, which is for the 21 and for the 22 school year, which I will show you this package, that they have to give this package every year. It is dated from March the 15th of every year. The Board of Education has to do 10 amendments based on what was filed with the consent decree. They have to give you an answer on everything. And that's based on the number of schools you have, in each school, which Mr. Scott has already stated to you. That's about 43.30 black kids. And you had 2 or more races, you had all of the races in there. You have about 63% non-white population now. The other 37% is non-black. So that should kind of tell you something right now, based on when they first started. When they first started with the teaching staff, I think they had about 70-some teachers in my report. From that report, they've gone up to about 78. The highest number of black teachers we've had in District 186 back in 2013. We have 131 black teachers out of about 1,200-some teachers certified. That's the highest number. Ever since that 131, we've gone down. We've gone down. Now we're at about 78.3 based on the 3 that's pending. That's where we are today. But what I can only go on what I have in the report that they filed. And this report has to go to Wisconsin. The only person who's stuck here with this report is Attorney Olson. He was in the law firm of Jimmy McPherson. He's the only one down. Anytime we want to call him down to research or to evaluate this discussion, all we have to do is make a call and push it. We haven't pushed that much in the last few years because the education chair of the NAACP, we are the watchdogs. The team that we have is pretty assertive. Sherry Hamilton is the education chair now. After that, I'll come back up. When I gave up being the education chair, Ken Page was the education chair. Then after that, Archer Mons and all the rest of them, they said it too. But now, Sherry Hamilton is the education chair. We work for her. It's about 8 or 9 of us. Louis Day, Judy Johnson, Sidney Nelson, Judy Hoffman. We make up the education team for the NAACP. Once we get this report, we try to be in partnership with District 186. When I say partnership, because in the suit, we are stating in there, even before they build a building, they're supposed to go through the NAACP. Now, most of them haven't read this document, but anyway, it's in there. It's about 1,000-some pages. I just finished going through them. Now, in these documents, as we've already stated to you about the number of students that we have, that is Appendix 1. They give you the breakdown of what Mr. Scott was talking about. It breaks down to now that the black kids are the majority now. We used to be the minority. We are the majority. But when we put the 2 or more races and the other races in there, that's why I said to you, we got about 63% non-white versus 37% white. So that's an issue, that's a concern. Now, I might go over somebody's head sometimes, that just me. I won't be happy to 50-50. I repeat, I won't be happy just to 50-50. And not all of this is mine. I've been everywhere that I worked in 5 different superintendents. And they know where I'm coming from. Dr. Patton, they got rid of Dr. Patton because Dr. Patton is the one who was trying to get the district to go cooperate before they got rid of him. Yeah, Dr. Plum, Dr. David, Dr. Hill, Dr. Rutgers, Dr. Miller, and now the present superintendent. Yeah, I work with all of them. Now, I don't want to take credit for this. I do what God tells me. He's the one giving me energy, gives me strength. Sometimes I neglect my family. I neglect whoever I do because of kids. I'm from a poor family. But in the meantime, we have a board member. And talking to him about like some stuff that I just shared with these 5 ladies. This was back in 2001. When we had the conversation, it was on the board. I told him I wasn't happy about the layout. He took it back to the board. At the time, President Ferguson was the president of the board. He asked for a committee. Mr. Davis chaired this committee to work with teachers, administrators, senior citizens, everybody that makes up the community. He chaired the committee. He made the report. I got the report up here. That is about 25 or 30 pages. It was presented to the board back in 2002, stating everything that we wanted, all of the finishes, but there's so many other people that I have to give credit for who really worked real hard. And I mean real hard. Now, where I got some of my savings from is Bill McPherson. She beat me in shape when I first got there. I took a class with her out there. And she leads you up. She said she's going to take this class. She said, President, you're going to take this class. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. I got a lot of that from her. But at the same time, there's another lot of key members who is part of this, and there's Bobby Blackwell. Bobby Blackwell, Gail Simpson, and all a bunch more, worked on all of these different finishes that we presented to the board, asking for this and asking for that, and how we could improve the number of blacks that we have teaching in our schools. Because still today, we come repeat, there should be in the school in this district no black teachers in there. And when I said to you, we was asking, I wasn't asking for that much. I just had to try to start off from somewhere, and I said, well, we have 2 or more. And I didn't only ask for 2 or more. I said, at the high schools, we need a guidance team here, we need an assistant principal here, because they have 2 or 3 high schools, they have deans, they have nothing. Now, we'll have to give Dr. Jeff our credit. We did my bid, because he's pretty certain and I'm pretty certain. But I have to give him credit because every position that when I moved up, he asked me, because I told him I would interview. I didn't interview for a job. I never interviewed that much for a job. If they didn't send for me and ask me to do it, I said no. My wife got on me because when I got ready to go to South Beach, he called and asked me would I have coffee. I don't drink coffee. He said, well, just come and have a coke or something. Give me one statement that you apply for South Beach. I said, no, give me this statement. I went up against 50 minutes. I knew they was going to vote me down. I knew that. Because I know who I am. My own man. But when I went in, I said, kids come first. You don't come first to me. I don't need you other teachers if I don't have kids. A lot of teachers didn't like that. But if I can get the kids there and take care of my kids, then I need you. And that's the way I always count myself. I want the teachers to be able to teach. Teachers today should be able to teach. They can't have discipline. It's too much. They should be able to teach. And our kids kind of fall to the wayside because teachers spend too much time trying to have discipline. But anyway, back to the bottom line. The first black teacher, which I got this from Dr. Wilson, was hired back in 1955. That's 67 years ago. One teacher. And they didn't teach past levels. Nobody west of the level didn't teach them inside town. So we got a problem. Yes. Mr. Scott stated to you. It's not about black and white. When I went to Jefferson, they had 2 black kids. And I get into the base of this. The reason why a lot of teachers leave because they're not accepted. I wasn't accepted when I went to Jefferson. They used the end group, not the kids. It was staff members. I wanted to blow the place up. God gave me the strength to get over it. And then I said, I can beat you at your game. I used to go to the cafeteria, eat with them, you put a chair there. I did it for 3 days. I said, now I got to have some conversation. Just tell me you don't want me in there. But the bottom line, they used to come and get me out of my classroom to control their kids. Then I told them in a workshop once, the reason why you put down for the kids, because you didn't want me here. These kids, black or white, know they trust you, they do whatever you ask. And a lot of times, that's how I got over. And I moved up real fast, quick. But where we are now, and I'm gonna close. But I wanted to make sure this is all of these documents right here. This is for the 21 and the 22 student year. Now we won't get the next one until 22 and 23. By March the 15th, this report has to be found. For all of the information, those 10 different things, they have to send in. Has to do with enrollment, has to do with M&M transfer, has to do with transportation, has to do with every time we build a building, change the boundary lines, it has to be in this report. It's in the report. So to say to you, I hope when you leave today, this is our problem. It's very wholesome for all of us and for our kids, whether black and white, that you have to know that we all are needed. White kids need black teachers just as bad. And the thing about it, a lot of kids that we deal with say, I never had a black teacher. It's been through district 6. But I just feel like being in this particular city, in this community, I hope what you learn from us today will take it back and speak up or speak out that we all are needed. Now, how are we going to get these black teachers and be able to retain them and get them stay? But a young teacher coming in at 24, 25, you don't have no norms right now. So you're not going to stay there. But we got to do something to make it attractive enough for them to stay. All of our kids do need us. They're going to be the taxpayers. They're going to be the ones we go to the nursing home where we're going to go. We just hope they have a decent job. So we have a decent place to go to where the kids can be. But at the same time, I hope that if you have any questions, I'm going to cut some of mine short. But at the same time, if you don't have this book, you probably check it in District 86. Some of the same information that Dr. Wilson was sharing with you is in this book. This is it. It's step by step. It'll be all of the kids that got their name in this book that their parents went to fight with them. And every last one of them is listed in this book. On the first 2 or 3 pages. So all of the 10 different things, this right here, this is what the judge told them to do. That's why we get this every year. Now we weren't getting this report until I come and said, what? Wait a minute. When you send it in, you need to bring us in. You're supposed to talk to us before you even send it in. And I would have to give them credit. They do talk to us now. We meet with the superintendent about 5 times a year. But a lot of this is not evidence. There's been a lot of things, a lot of hard work, a lot of time. And I really have to go back by black people. Bobby, I'm in that book. And when we hired the first black HR recruiter, because they kept saying they couldn't go out and recruit. So we hired the first black recruiter, 2005. So when we hired the recruit back in 2005, the numbers went up. But since that time, the numbers are going down. And a lot of that has to do with how we treat them, how we accept them, how we make them feel that they want. There's some teachers don't want to work in certain buildings. It shouldn't be that way. And there's some principals who don't want to like it. It shouldn't be that way. But now I'm going to close. And if any time we need something, I said, because I didn't get all these documents, and I'm going to call me.
Albert,
But I have it all.
Albert, I think it's important to tell the group or tomorrow, one of you, about what the rules are now. If we have a new staff person that you want to assign to a given school, and that the faculty has some say so whether or not that individual can be placed in the building.
Okay, I'll let Mr. Scott speak to it. I will probably be part of it because back in 1993, I'm the one who voted on to have that shared decision-making team. We voted on this Southwest High School. I thought it was great, and I still think it's great. But you still, just because at the time when you wanted, let's say you wanted a science teacher, you wanted a math teacher. Well, I would bring the science department chair in and give them that team. Long time ago, they wouldn't let you do this, but when they decided to have the shared decision making, you can bring in 2 or 3 or 7 more different teachers. But at the same time, when you bring these groups in, and I'm going to say something in a few minutes, what I think should happen, the shared decision making team, so you might have 1 black and 4 white. 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose. That's the reason why that's why I always said to myself, I do have to lose. Now, when you because I was going to speak what I was going to speak, and say what I was going to say, and I figured that team was going to go against me, which they did. Most of the time, I would finish 2nd or 3rd, but the superintendent. So go clean this school up, go do this, go do that. That's really why I said keep on thinking. But at the same time, he knew what I could do. But the bottom line, I think what the district should do now, with the central office, they should be the ones to make the decision who's going back. They all got masters, they all got PhDs, they know the energy, they should pretty much know. I'm not saying this completely cut out, and y'all know you might want to ask them to it when they're part 2, but I feel like some of these schools that keep turning blacks down, and won't take it. I think they have to step in and make that decision. I don't know whether they answer the question to you or not, but it's there that you want to
Well, I just want to say one thing about that because I used to borrow the contracts and represent the Board of Education. And when Jamar and Elton were telling me about this shared decision-making policy, I said to myself, what in the world is that? Because if you have a recruiter or a principal and that individual identifies someone who they believe is going to do a really good job at a particular school, then they ought to go there. You call in the principal, you say, we have candidate A here, we look at his or her credentials. They are a perfect fit for your school. That was the end of the discussion. If in my capacity as HR director, you get that information from the superintendent that we're going to assign Mrs. Jones out at X school. That was the end of it. Never dawned upon me that I would hear the next 2 or 3 days, you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this, that person wasn't accepted because of the shared decision-making model. Which I believe is a part of something that we agreed to in contract negotiation. And if I got that right, board members, that's a huge statement that needs to be corrected. Because you can never cede that authority because it limits what you can and cannot do in terms of trying to affect what Elbert and Jamar said, which is to hire staff, identify those staff, and get them into the schools where they need to be. And you cannot have anyone in a decision-making position in central office here in the next day or 2 where you got to go back to the drawing board because the teachers out at XY school didn't want that particular person. I was be as direct as Elbert is. I think that's ridiculous. I don't understand that. And you know, just to put it in perspective, education is a lot more important than professional stories. It really is a lot more important. But I cannot imagine any NFL team or any NBA team trying to identify someone to go in and perform a certain responsibility as a power forward or as a linebacker, and then the rest of the team say, we don't want them. That's not their job. That's the general manager's job, or the Bears or the Blues. It should be the superintendent's responsibility and that of the HR department to make those kinds of decisions. So when you have principals like Elbert and like Jamar, they're vested in trying to find the best people they possibly can. What they need to do, what they have to have, is someone in the central office to make sure that that can be done. And it should not be hamstrung by something that's in the contract. If that did in fact happen, board members, it needs to be taken care of.
Okay, I think we're gonna probably wrap it up, I guess, if you have any questions.